Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My dad passed away in October 2012, which was devastating for my siblings and me. Losing him was hard enough, but just a month later, in November 2012, my grandfather, my dad's father, also passed away. That was a tough year for my family. Back-to-back losses of two people we loved dearly. I thought the worst was behind us, but I couldn't have been more wrong. After my grandfather passed, the family had to deal with his will. My grandfather was pretty traditional, and he left an inheritance for each of his children. But there was a specific clause in his will. If one of his children passed away before him, that child's share would be divided equally among their grandchildren. In other words, my dad's share, because he died before my grandfather, would go to my siblings and me. It wasn't a massive amount, each of us got just under $9,000, but it was enough to help us, and it was something that felt like a small part of my dad's legacy. Everything should have gone smoothly from there, right? Well, not exactly. My dad had a sister, my aunt, who was legitimately off her rocker. I'm talking full-on crazy. She's been unstable for as long as I can remember. Someone you avoid at family gatherings. Someone you never want to be alone in a room with. Even her own kids avoid her. To give you an idea of how out of touch she is, she doesn't even know she has grandchildren because her own kids hide from her. No one can stand to be around her, and for good reason. So when the will was executed and my siblings and I received our shares of my dad's inheritance, she lost it. And I mean lost it. My aunt started hounding us, saying that we didn't deserve the money, that it should go to the real family, meaning her apparently, and that my dad's share wasn't ours to claim. At first, we tried to brush it off. You know, the usual crazy aunt being crazy kind of thing. But she didn't stop. She kept calling, texting, and harassing us. It got so bad that she started using different numbers to contact us after we blocked her. She even used fake names and aliases, pretending to be other people to get in touch with us. At one point, she had her boyfriend call us to threaten us, saying we needed to do the right thing and give her the money. The harassment was constant. Every day, a new call, a new message, more threats. Crazy thing is that months before all this craziness started, my aunt did something truly insane. She had always had this bizarre obsession with claiming that our grandfather wasn't actually her biological father. For whatever reason, she was convinced that he wasn't her dad and that she didn't share the same blood as the rest of the family. I have no idea why she believed this, but she was dead set on it. So, in her typical crazy fashion, she actually had a paternity test done. She went behind everyone's back and had a DNA test done to prove that my grandfather wasn't her real father. And guess what? She was right. The paternity test showed that my grandfather wasn't her biological father after all. Now, this didn't make much difference to the rest of us, but to my aunt, after finding out the results, she went around telling anyone who would listen that she had no ties to our family anymore. She basically disowned herself from us. At the time, we all thought it was weird, but figured it was her way of dealing with her issues. We didn't think much more of it. But when my grandfather passed away, that paternity test came back to bite her in the butt. After my grandfather's death, my other aunt, let's call her Aunt Sue, stepped in. Aunt Sue is the more rational one in the family, and she had been dealing with my crazy aunt for years. Once she learned about the paternity test and how crazy aunt had basically declared that she wasn't part of the family, Aunt Sue took action. You see, my grandfather's will left everything to his biological children and grandchildren. Because my crazy aunt wasn't actually his biological child, and because she had insisted on proving it with the paternity test, Aunt Sue decided to have her kicked out of the will. Legally, my aunt was no longer entitled to any inheritance from my grandfather, and that's when all hell broke loose. Once my crazy aunt realized that she wasn't going to get a dime from my grandfather's estate, she completely lost it. I guess in her mind, the next best target was us, my siblings and me, because we had inherited the money that would have gone to my dad. And since she was no longer in the will, she somehow convinced herself that we didn't deserve the money either. She started harassing us even more aggressively, sending threatening messages, calling from different numbers, and even showing up at our houses unannounced. There were days when I was genuinely afraid to leave my house because I didn't know what she was capable of. She had always been unstable, but this was on another level. Her threats became more sinister. She accused us of stealing her inheritance and said we needed to give it to the real family, whatever that means. She even had her boyfriend call us and threaten us with legal action. Of course, there was no legal standing for her to do anything, but it was terrifying nonetheless. It got to the point where we had to take legal action. My siblings and I went to court and filed for protection orders against her. Even after the restraining orders were put in place, my aunt still tried to find ways to get to us. She sent people to our houses, tried to contact us through mutual acquaintances, and spread vicious rumors about us to anyone who would listen. She made it her mission to paint us as the bad guys, even though she was the one who had disowned the family and had proven herself not to be our grandfather's biological child. The last straw was when she tried to have Aunt Sue removed as the executor of the will, claiming that she was unfairly keeping her from what she was owed. The court laughed her out of the room. There was no legal basis for her to inherit anything after the paternity test confirmed she wasn't related by blood, and the will was clear that the inheritance was meant for my dad's biological descendants, meaning my siblings and me. As of today, my crazy aunt is still out there somewhere, and I have no idea what she's up to. We've cut all contact with her, and the restraining orders are still in place. It's sad to think that this woman is so unhinged that her own kids hide from her, and she doesn't even know she has grandchildren. But what's worse is the fact that she's turned her anger and instability on us simply because we received what was rightfully ours, according to my grandfather's will. I still don't understand how she could go from claiming our grandfather wasn't her father to demanding his money when it suited her. It's like she flipped a switch and decided that she was entitled to something she had previously rejected. The whole situation is just mind-boggling. My siblings and I are trying to move on from all the drama, but it's hard. The inheritance was supposed to be something that honored my dad's memory and helped us feel connected to him and our grandfather. Instead, it turned into a nightmare of harassment and threats. But am I the a-hole for not sharing our inheritance with her? OP's aunt sounds completely unhinged, and the fact that she tried to play both sides, claiming OP's grandfather wasn't her dad, and then demanding money from his will, is ridiculous. She had no legal or moral claim to that inheritance, and her behavior is downright scary. Good on OP for getting protection orders. Your aunt just can't pick and choose when she's part of the family. She literally disowned herself by proving your grandfather wasn't her father, so she had no right to any of the inheritance. I can't believe she's harassing you like this. It's beyond unhinged. You absolutely did the right thing, and it's sad that she's making this all about money. Good luck dealing with this, but don't give her a cent. Not the a-hole. It's crazy how some people will twist things just to get what they want. Your aunt is trying to gaslight you into thinking you're in the wrong when she's the one who went out of her way to prove she wasn't even related to your grandfather. It sounds like she's just lashing out because she feels entitled to something that was never hers. Stay strong, and definitely keep those protection orders in place. Not the a-hole. You and your siblings did everything right. Your aunt has no claim to the money, and she's acting like a complete lunatic. The fact that she went through the paternity test to disown your grandfather and then turned around demanding his money just shows how manipulative and unstable she is. Don't give her a dime, and keep her as far away from your life as possible. You don't owe her anything. My husband and I have been married for 3 years, together for 7. We recently decided that we were ready to have a child, and I became pregnant. I am currently 16 weeks pregnant, and this has been a difficult pregnancy for me. I constantly feel nauseous, uncomfortable, etc. Enter my sister-in-law. She is 19 and recently told my husband she found out she is pregnant with a one-night stand she had. Her and my husband are very close. Sister-in-law says she wants to keep the baby, yet she is a college student with a part-time job and still lives with her mom, who has expressed that she will not provide support for the pregnancy. This past month, my husband has been neglecting me to help sister-in-law. He has missed my appointments. I have to go baby shopping without him, and he is not around to comfort me when I feel ill. Instead, soon as he has finished work, he will go to his mother's house to help his sister. He has taken her to her appointments. He often spends the night there and tells me sister-in-law felt sick throughout the night and he needed to comfort her. When I tell him I need him to comfort me, he retorts that I am a grown woman and his sister is 19, has no spousal support, and needs him. I am starting to resent my sister-in-law. I hate her for taking away what was supposed to be a great experience for my husband and I. Instead, I am driving myself to the doctor for ultrasounds and sitting in waiting rooms while staring at blissfully happy couples. I was offered a pamphlet for a single mother support group by the receptionists. What can I do? My husband has spent the weekend with sister-in-law, and I've been at home vomiting. My dog has been more supportive than my husband, for crying out loud. But every time I bring this issue up, my husband says I'm a grown woman and his sister is 19 and needs me. Well, newsflash, I need him too. I am so frustrated and emotional. Any advice is helpful. Honestly, I think it's ultimatum time. He's being an a-hole. He has to understand that this is not okay, and you will not put up with this any longer. If he wants to be absent now, he will also be absent later because you'll divorce him. I don't know if you're considering it, but honestly, this is so crazy I think you should consider it. What happens when both babies are born? Will he still play daddy with his nephew, leaving his own child fatherless? It's crazy. Couple counseling could maybe help, but he'll have to wake up soon if he doesn't want to duck up your marriage more than he already has. You didn't sign up to be a single mother. Your sister-in-law did. Tell your husband he'll either need to start showing up to your appointments and spending quality time with you, or you're serving him with divorce papers. It'll only get worse once the babies come, if boundaries aren't established now. Your sister-in-law hasn't taken away anything. It's your husband who is doing that. Stop blaming her. She didn't get pregnant on purpose just to hurt you. And make sure that when you talk to your husband about his choices in this, that you are leaving his sister out of the equation. Frame it about what you need, not what you feel like she is taking away from you. This all happened in 1999. I'm not sure what kind of revenge it is, but I felt petty after doing it, so I'm posting it here. Backstory. My cousin Charlotte and I are about the same age. We come from a pretty big family. Thanksgivings could be upwards of 35 people, and she was completely self-obsessed. She was dating a man who was 15 years older than her. She was about to break up with him because she wasn't sure she'd still find him attractive in 10 years. She was 25, he 40. But then he reveals he has over $1 million because his parents left him a large sum of money when they died. All of a sudden, she's pretty sure he'll look just fine in 10 years. So she sets about getting married. My mother has only one request. Don't get married on the last Saturday of May, as that was when I was going to my graduation from college. Well, wouldn't you know it, that's just the day she picked. Her side of the family downplays it. After all, what is a graduation when compared to a wedding? I grit my teeth and agree to not make a big stink, and we all drive 6 hours to her wedding. The story. We get a call the night before we get to the house. It was held at their home, early so we can set up, and we should bring our appetites, because he's going to serve us breakfast. Okay, fair play. So we pull up the morning of the wedding. It's family, so you pitch in. We walk in and are immediately put to work. We set up tables in the front yard and chairs in the back. Over 150 chairs to be exact. We work for over an hour, all the time getting hungrier and hungrier. At around 10 or so, we ask our uncle where the food is. Well, didn't we get any when we came in? No. We got there and were put right to work. Oh well, no time now. Then the caterers show up. Well, it's a guy that goes to my uncle's church, and he brought 2 15-year-old waiters. The food is all pre-packaged and there's a ton of it. So my sister gets put to work in the kitchen warming it up, while my brother and I are put to work setting up the serving lines. Now, my uncle was one of the cheapest men on the planet, and it was dawning on us that this was a diamond gem special. That's what we called it when he cheaped out on everything and expected everyone else to pick up the slack. By now, my brother and I have sweated through our undershirts, and we're looking pretty ragged. All the while, my cousin is drifting around the house like she's royalty. I swear, if she had just told me, "Thank you for doing this. I know you missed your graduation for my big day, and I appreciate it," nothing that happened next would have. But instead, she walked up to me and said, "You're going to fix your hair before the service, right?" I gritted my teeth and went back to putting tablecloths out. The wedding comes and goes. The service was fine, but 30 minutes late because Her Royal Highness wanted to make an entrance. My sister didn't get to see the first half because she was still warming up thousands of meatballs for the serving trays. Then, when the service is over and without missing a beat, my uncle looks at my brother and I and says, "Okay, now move all the chairs out front to the tables." My brother looks at him like he's about to end him, but we do it anyway. All the while, we're taking crap from the guests like, we need chairs over here, and you two really should have done this earlier, like we're hired help or something. But the straw that broke the camel's back was when, at a moment's notice, Charlotte decides that because some of her favorite flowers were in bloom, that she wanted us to rearrange the entire wedding meal so she could take her pictures there. And oh, won't it just be fun for everyone to watch them being taken? My brother and I are summoned, and off to work we go. While this is going on, the caterer and my uncle are just sitting under a tree having a big old time while my sister runs the kitchen and is busting her butt to help these two overworked freshmen. Those two girls look like they were going to die. We are beyond hungry. Remember, we didn't get to eat that morning. But by the time we finally finished, most of the food was gone. My siblings and I go back into their house and scrounge whatever is left and sit in the living room. We're all exhausted and looking for payback. The revenge. Like I said before, all of this could have been avoided with just a little recognition for our efforts. But we come up with what we called our servants package. Just a couple little perks for our work. Charlotte's sister Bess hates weddings and isn't a huge fan of her sister's. So we ask her what airline they are taking to go to Hawaii on their honeymoon. She tells us, and I get on the phone as the groom. This is pre-9/11, so it was a much different airline industry I was dealing with. My initial plan was to upgrade their tickets to first class. The dude could afford it, and we suspected he'd think Charlotte did it. Well, turns out they were all booked. So, quick-witted little weasel that I was, I tell the woman on the line that I was supposed to get the tickets upgraded for our honeymoon and that my new wife was going to be pissed. So, could she please move us to opposite ends of the plane so she won't badger me all the way there? The woman gets suspicious and says if this is a prank. I assure her it's not, and she moves the seats. I then ask for the no-sodium meal because we didn't get to eat today. She gets to have a garbage meal on her flight. As the happy couple drove off to their night at a B&B, we waved our goodbyes and headed to a local casino to blow off some steam. The aftermath. We knew crap was going to hit the fan because Charlotte simply sees all inconveniences in her life as the worst thing imaginable. But what we didn't know is that Bess decided she wanted in and started really scorching some earth. She called up and canceled their B&B, as well as did something to the luggage that no one would explain. Then, when confronted, pinned it all on us. They had to come back and stay the night with their parents before leaving the next day. We found out this part of the story at 4 o'clock in the morning when we returned to our hotel to find my mother waiting outside for us. Now, to be clear, my mother is an amazing woman, a woman full to the brim of the cream with human kindness. But that wasn't the face she was wearing when we pulled up. No. She was wearing the face she wore that time she helped the FBI nail a con man who was trying to destroy our family business to the wall. A story for another day. This turned into a sore spot from which our extended family never really recovered. I feel bad about that, but in the spirit of giving her an opportunity to even the score, I invited her to my wedding. She declined. I've only seen her at family funerals. Why did your mother not do something when you and your siblings were being used as unpaid and unthanked servants? My mother always made sure we looked out for family. Family above all. I can respect where she was coming from, but still, don't buy into it entirely. You say your mom is nice, but honestly, I think she sucks. There's no way in hell I would let my child miss the graduation they worked very hard for. Yeah, OP's mom prioritizes a brat and not making waves over her children's health, an important once-in-a-lifetime event. She'd rather her children be overworked and disrespected than stand up for them. She chose her bratty niece's wedding over her child's graduation. Definitely not the nice woman OP claims. I'm sorry you missed your graduation. Everyone is against you in this story. They bust your chops mercilessly on your graduation day, and your revenge. You didn't even get to see your cousin's agony. You caused her no remorse that you got to see, and your own mother took her side in the end. It sucks. Your family sucks. You got crap treatments from everyone in your story, except your brother. You realize she emphasizes the importance of family to reinforce your behavior and your attitude, right? She's keeping you in check, and you're just not seeing it. Families always do this. Family is so important, blah, blah, blah. And then you have to act like it's the most important thing in the world. And nobody thanks you for helping, because between the words, family is so important. They think you're nothing. They think you're nobody. They think that no one there doesn't matter. All that matters is how important they are. Duck that, man. Duck that and duck them. I'm sorry what I said about your mother. I only got a short story from your life, so I realize I could be wrong about everything. But that's how it sounds to me right now. My husband, Drew, and I have been married for 3 years and dated for 2 years before that. We have a 14-month-old daughter. Drew and I purchased our first home at the end of our engagement. He put down 70% of the down payment. I put down 30%. We have a combined income of $400,000, with him making the bulk of it, $300,000. Halfway through my pregnancy, I stopped working, but am now back to work. He basically handles our bills. We both deposit our accounts to a mutual account and withdraw a certain percent to our personal accounts for personal spending. We also have investments. Every month we would sit down and he would tell me about the bills. Sorry for this info. The second half of my post will be related to leaving, so I figured the finances were important. Basically, my husband changed once we had Leslie. She was planned, and he was always excited to become a father. But halfway through my pregnancy, he had doubts. I assumed it was normal cold feet, and he would eventually return to being supportive and loving. After we had Leslie, he became extremely resentful towards me. He didn't want any part in childcare. He became extremely rude to me and resented that I stopped working for a bit. We went to counseling and things got better. He started showing me love, affection, and support again, and took a much more active parenting role. After almost a year of normal behavior, he started getting resentful again. He yells, he ignores me, he doesn't communicate at all. I stopped depositing my income in the joint account because initially we would sit down every month and talk about what gets paid, what didn't, and what is upcoming. He stopped doing that, telling me he's taking care of it. So I told him if he wasn't willing to involve me, I'm not going to deposit my income in the account. He got furious, telling me my income is nothing anyway. He doesn't need me to help run the house, etc. I said when he wanted my help with the bills, he would need to be transparent about it. He's also been just plain mean and short-tempered. We have guests over for Labor Day, and he got angry with me not turning the pool heater on. It's really cold anyways, unless it's in. I told him that was his responsibility, and he just got angry. So I took him to the whiteboard in the kitchen where we divided the responsibilities for our party, and in his half said start pool heater. He got angry and went outside to where all the guests and food is. I followed but didn't converse with him until a guest commented on how cold the pool was. Drew got angry and said I was too busy baking a cake I could have bought instead of wasting hours, and took it off the table and threw it in the trash in front of family, parents, friends. I went inside and my mom followed, and I told her I needed a divorce, and she told me to think of Leslie. She needs a solid home. She can't be bouncing between two parents, etc. Drew came inside and said me leaving would hurt nobody but me and Leslie. My income, life, and relationship with Leslie will suffer because Leslie will resent me for taking her away from home. My mom agreed, but told Drew he needed counseling. Basically, I feel alone. I feel I have no support, not even from my mom. I don't want to be at this party. I don't feel safe in my home anymore. I'm afraid to leave because he's controlled the finances for so long, and I know I make decent income, but moving costs, attorney costs, childcare costs. I'm overwhelmed and need guidance. Think about Leslie witnessing incidents like this and being taught that what you do when your husband treats you this way is shut up, put on a plastic smile, and keep the peace. Imagine your little girl 20 years from now in a relationship exactly like this, because you taught her that this is how she deserves to be treated. Imagine your mother there, spinning the same old yarn about how your own grandchildren should be raised in this situation, and your little girl, too frightened to leave and conditioned by your own actions to accept that this is just how relationships work. You make $100,000 a year. Your baby is not going to be without food in her mouth, a roof over her head, or clothes on her back if you decide to leave this man. She might not get a BMW when she's 16. That's what you're looking at here. A lifetime of teaching your child that she deserves to be mistreated in return for a flashy car,